to carry on. Open your heart, set your mind at ease. Live your life and you'll be free. We're gonna rise, rise, rise. Keep on rising, rise, rise, rise. Keep on rising,
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for this morning's Newcastle United news. I'm Paul. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you do enjoy today's news stream, then please do hit that like button. And, of course, if you're new to the channel, bottom right-hand corner, click the logo, click subscribe, and come and be part of this incredible community. You can, of course, donate to the channel if you do so wish by hitting that $ at the bottom of the live comments. And that will, of course, get your comment guaranteed to be read out on the show. And, of course, membership is available as well by hitting the join button just underneath myself. So, good morning, everybody. And it seems like Newcastle United are, well, making moves now for the January transfer window. Certainly, the Calvin Phillips to Newcastle United on loan is definitely picking up. And Eddie Howe has made it known that Dominic Solanke could well be one of his targets in January as well. That one will come on to, because I'm not really 100% sure about that. And I don't think many Newcastle fans are, to be honest. But time will tell. Time will tell on the Solanke one. We'll start off, obviously, with Calvin Phillips. Now, this has started to pick up, certainly over the last 24, 48 hours. We've seen more and more media reports linking Calvin Phillips with us, which is interesting, because we've just been talking, certainly on our shows, that a number 6 is really required in order for Bruno to play his best football as well, further up the pitch. Shane, good morning over there. So good evening in Australia. I hope you're well. Thank you for your super chat. He says, I'd take Solanke in a heartbeat. He's currently a better striker than Wilson, in my opinion. Interesting thoughts. Well, Calvin Phillips, though, a lot of people seem to be put off by the loan fee that's certainly been banded around at the minute, and that loan fee is £7.5 million. Now, it seems a lot, but when you look back to when Newcastle United were interested in Jesse Lingard from Manchester United, they were wanting £12 million for a loan deal, which was absolutely outrageous, and just goes to show you, the Manchester United just clueless when it comes to that. Absolutely shocking, thinking they could get somebody to pay £12 million for just a loan fee for Jesse Lingard. And look how that's gone for Lingard since then. Totally down the spout, in my opinion. However, Calvin Phillips, I think, will probably be worth the loan fee. I know it's a bit high, but if it is with regards to a permanent deal in the summer, I think I'd be all for it. I think I really like Calvin Phillips. At first, I was a little bit put off, thinking, well, he hasn't played much football. But the times that he has come on, he's actually done all right. He's actually done all right for Man City. Look, you don't lose the quality that he's lost just because he hasn't been playing, regular games for Manchester City. If you look back to how he played for Leeds, that, he was outstanding. A real standout, and we featured him on a couple of transfer shows ourselves because, he was linked before he went to, of course, Manchester City. You can understand him going to Manchester City. There's a big opportunity there to win things, and that's what he's done. He's gone there to win things, and to be fair, I think a lot of people would do that, wouldn't they? If they had the opportunity to go to Manchester City. Newcastle were just starting on the rise. And now we're in a much better position to bring in certainly a likes of Calvin Phillips. Now, obviously, I'm seeing comments already in the chat saying, he's better than Sean Longstaff, etc. So let's go for him. I think he's a different player to Sean. Sean obviously plays a bit further forward than Calvin Phillips. Sean Longstaff is not. He's not 6 in my opinion, whereas Phillips is that, and it would enable certainly Bruno to go forward, but it would give us so many more options in midfield. Of course, he could change the formation a little bit if Eddie was to go down that route. Certainly when the likes of Joe Willock is back, Sandro Tonali next season for his ban. So there would be a lot of options with Calvin Phillips. And look, he's still in the England squad, whether you agree with that or not, with what Southgate does with the England squad. It's, we've all got our opinions on that, haven't we? But at the end of the day, he's still in the England squad. He's getting regular international appearances. So this guy can play football. And I think he would definitely be something we'd need, given our situation right now. To go for him in January, I think would be a fantastic idea. He is as I say, very, very heavily linked. Newcastle, according to reports, are quite far down the road with negotiations. So for me, this looks like it's going to happen with Calvin Phillips. Of course, there was the Juventus thing last week, saying that Juventus were interested in taking him. Juventus had talks with him. So for me, it looks like he's turned that down because he wants to stay in the Premier League. And Newcastle may be a project that would interest Calvin Phillips, because he'd certainly get regular football at Newcastle. I don't think we're under any illusion about that. That at the moment, with the squad threadbare as it is, but he'd also add to the quality that we've got in the squad, and that's what we need to look for, is quality. We need to keep improving and keep on moving with the times. And we've been very critical of Eddie Howe lately, saying about playing his favourites and not really, thinking ahead of the game when it comes to his squads and things like that. But we have to take into fact the injuries and things like that. But he has, and hopefully will, learn from these things that have happened. Certainly in the last few months, that's a certainty. But I think Calvin Phillips is a solid player, and certainly will shore up our defence, playing in the centre sort of defensive midfielder position just in front of the back four. I think it will shore up, definitely. But, it's interesting because a lot of people seem to be split on Calvin Phillips, and I was at first. I must admit, I wasn't keen on the signing. I thought it was just, what's the point of signing somebody that hasn't played for so long? But let's be honest, he's been training under Pep Guardiola. That for me kind of improves him, even though he hasn't had a lot of match experience, in the last season or so. It's the fact that he's been, training with the very best. He's been learning from the very best, and we could be the benefactors of that if we sign Calvin Phillips, because everything he's learned under Pep Guardiola, he can put into practice at Newcastle under Eddie Howe. And I think that's why, Newcastle and Eddie Howe are particularly interested in bringing in Calvin Phillips, because it gives us an option, and it gives us more choices in midfield as well. Let's see what you guys think of it so far with Calvin Phillips. Andy says, I'm not a Phillips fan. I never have been. He is a one-dimensional plodder who cannot get around the pitch. Too many sideways and backwards passing. But is that not what a CDM should be doing? Is that not a CDM's role? Winning the ball back and just playing it simple. You look at, David Batty back in the day. He was never a pacey footballer. He tended to go from side to side, just win the ball back with a nice, strong challenge and then lay the ball off. That's all we want from a CDM, surely. When we've got the forwards, lay it off to Bruno, lay it off to Joe Linton, Joe Willock, they'll get the attack going. That's not Calvin Phillips's role. Dave said it would enable us to change formation time to time and play a double pivot with Phillips and Bruno. Absolutely. Barbara says a goalkeeper priority. Get the hair in next month. Good morning, Mary. Hope you're well. Hippie says, good day, lads and ladies. Hope you're all doing well. I think Phillips would be a good signing. I think he's a lad that can keep his ego in check. Yes. And credit to Calvin Phillips, because, if you look since he's been at Manchester City, he has never once kicked off, or certainly from what I've seen as an outsider looking in, about the lack of game time. He completely, respects his manager. And I think, the times we're in at Newcastle United, the run we're going through, we need players like that who will come in and respect the manager and play for the manager. I'm not saying the lads aren't playing for the manager now. They're just dead on the feet. And a little bit of freshness into the squad. It can't do us any harm, can it? Brainwashed maniacs, as people will hate on me now, but I think we need to sell Bruno to open up FFP money to get 2 to 3 players in. Well, let's see what they're going to make on this Adidas deal first, because obviously, that will help us massively when it comes to FFP and bringing in players. Now, I know that Eddie's been saying about new contracts for current existing players at the squad. I don't agree with that. I'd rather he made the ruthless decision to think, right, you've done your time at Newcastle, you've done us proud, but it is time to move on instead of offering new contracts here and there, because it's pointless. Lots of rumours we just can't spend money due to FFP. I wouldn't pay any attention to that at the moment, Chris, to be honest, because we've got a big sponsorship deal. We've got a couple of big sponsors coming in the door, which will open up FFP for us, because it's all about the money generated as to how much we can spend. And that's why in the past few transfer windows, we haven't been able to do that because of FFP, granted. However, now is a very different story when we've got the sponsorship monies coming in that we have. It's a big deal with Adidas, the Noon deal, obviously. We've got an airline coming in. So, there is money there. And I wouldn't worry too much about FFP at the minute. Nathan said he's played very, very little under Pep, which is concerning, barely even appearing in cups. Yeah, he's had a nasty injury as well. Let's not forget that. Look, I'm not saying Calvin Phillips is the answer to everything here. I'm just saying I think it would be a solid signing. Somebody that has Premier League experience, has played, has a decent amount of game time in sort of international, which is he's played at the highest level. He hasn't had a lot of league club games, that granted, but you know what? I think he's still a solid signing. And if you look at the CDMs that are available around at the minute, he's probably up there. And I know what you're saying about him not playing a lot under Pep, but he's trained under Pep for an awful long time. He's learned from Pep for an awful long time as well. This and that says, 8th, I hope, is as bad as league position gets. His Leeds career was a long time ago. It was, but, I think what we tend to do as fans is we make judgments very early, don't we, on players and think, oh, he's not going to come in and do a job. But if you look, what you need to do is take a look at the players who are there now. And is he better than some of the players that we've got there now? I think he is. I think he's a better player than Sean Longstaff. I think at the moment he's probably ahead of Lewis Miley because Miley's only 17. Now, that's not to say that Miley isn't going to be a superstar, because he absolutely is. But right now, we don't have a proper number 6. We just don't. I mean, Bruno plays there, but Bruno belongs further forward. Bruno's a creator for me. And if Bruno was further forward on the pitch, I think we'd score more goals. Absolutely, we would. But we want that number 6 to just help out defensively, win the ball back, and then just play the simple things. And Calvin Phillips can do that, in my opinion. Paul Tully says, you could argue that his place could be at risk in the England squad, so he'll want to prove himself to maintain that position. Exactly, and a very good point, Paul, because if he comes in, of course, you've got the championships next summer. He will want to be involved in that. Now, history tells us that Gareth Southgate is a massive fan of Calvin Phillips anyway, and he'd probably go. But at the moment, he's not playing football, and he wants to be as sharp as he possibly can for when those championships start, and that would be playing regular club football. And he certainly would be that for Newcastle. He would be a regular because he's a proper number 6. Phillips would be an ideal signing, and with Eddie's record with players, would be flying very quickly. What's his injury profile? Well, look, he's had his injuries. There's no doubt about that. Okay, I haven't got his injuries up in front of me, but he has had injuries. And that may be a worry to some people, but he's been fully fit now for quite a while. I saw him come on. Well, I saw him play in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago. He scored a penalty and he played really well in that game. Looked very sharp. Looked as if he, certainly didn't look like a player that had missed, game after game after game and sitting on the bench. For me, looked really, really good. Nathan says, I'm for Calvin Phillips, but please get some business done early so the lads can gel together. Not a fan of these last-minute deals. We need capable players in straight away. I'm with you on that, Nathan. I think that Newcastle will hopefully have been very, very busy leading up to this transfer window so they can get deals done immediately. But we know it never works like that, does it? There's always a last-minute hiccup, or there's, further negotiations to be done, and that can be the hiccup that lets us down sometimes. And it's annoying. It is annoying, but we know how that happens, especially in the January window. You've got deals, and if you remember Anthony Gordon last season, it was difficult to get him through the door very quickly. So some will happen straight away, some won't. I think Newcastle United will be pretty provident in the transfer window all the way through. Even to deadline day, I think we'll still be involved on deadline day because we have to be. We need to look at these players. We need to work out deals for them, and it's not going to be easy. January is never easy to work out transfer fees and deals. It just isn't. The rough-yard Bernician says could give us more formation options, and he would be hungry to prove a point to could be a win-win. Yeah, absolutely. Surely we can get better value abroad. We don't pay English and Newcastle tax. Well, I'm not sure about that, Niall. I think, when we've gone abroad in the past to sign players, Newcastle tax has been there. Look, any club will see a rich club coming in for a player and will bump the prices up. I think that's inevitable. It always happens, whether it's here or abroad. Spike says, as long as the player can help us out, even for the short term, only time will tell. Never get carried away with any player. You never know how anyone will turn out. Michael says he'd take him on loan, but don't see him as the permanent option. We need the type of player that Phillips is. And a new right winger, goalkeeper, and striker. It's going to be a busy one, isn't it? We may as well get Paulinho for the money City still want. He's 28. I would prefer someone slightly younger. Eric says, not Phillips, please. Just think he isn't all that anymore. And Solanke is having a purple patch. He's normally lilac. What about Merry Chris Woodmas? Been and gone, my friend. Been and gone. Jack says, I like Solanke, but can't see us paying the money in January. Think Phillips will come in, though. Well, let's move on to Dominic Solanke, shall we? Because Dominic Solanke, I just don't see the appeal in this. I must be honest. I know he's in a little rich vein of form now. I know some people are a big fan of Dominic Solanke. I just don't think he's worth the risk. And, again, we're looking at, media reports saying, he's a big favourite of Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe loves him, this and that. And that kind of gets me worried a little bit because you kind of think, we're having a little bit of a criticism of Eddie Howe for having his favourites at Newcastle United. Bringing in another one, I'm not so sure about. Solanke is having a great season. There is no doubt about it, and hats off to him for that. But is he what Newcastle United need right now? He's a player under a purple patch. He's had a stop-start career, in my opinion, where he's been very slow to get going at every club he's been to. He was a complete failure at Liverpool, and then every club he's gone to after that, it's took him a long time to get going. It's took him a long time at Bournemouth to get going. So for me, I'm not a Solanke fan, I must admit, and it doesn't really inspire me with any sort of excitement, the possibility of signing Solanke. I think there's better strikers out there. And certainly when you look at the money that Bournemouth would be asking, I'm pretty sure that there is better players out there. I'm worried about that one because I really, really don't think that Solanke would be our answer. Yes, he's probably going to come in, and would he be ahead of Callum Wilson? I'm not so sure. Isak, for me, isn't the striker anyway, so I think we need to improve the striking department, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about Solanke, guys. I mean, I'm interested to know what you guys say. For the money that we'd have to pay for Solanke as well, you're talking an English player here. And remember, the prices go massively up when you're talking about English players, certainly signing from Premier League to Premier League sides. Solanke may well be, excited by the move, but it's not one that would get me going. And I'm not being sort of disrespectful to Solanke. He's done well this season. He's having a really good season at Bournemouth, but not for me. Davey says, I don't think Eddie can dwell too much on transfers. He needs to kick ass, get some in. He's under pressure now. Karius says, we need a new goalkeeper too. Dubravka, not good enough. I would play Karius instead. I'm going to come on to the goalkeeping situation in a second. Peter says, we need a goalkeeper ASAP. We will rescue so many points by replacing Dubravka. Eddie said no expected business until the end of the window to see how injuries are getting on. David, I wouldn't take anything that Eddie says about the transfer window as gospel. I'm not saying Eddie's lying there, by the way. I'm just saying that he tends to do that to put people off the scent of us going for anybody. He's done it many, many times. Of course, he did it in the summer. I'll talk about this till the cows come about what he did with Harvey Barnes. He's in New York. He's saying we don't know anything about Harvey Barnes at the minute. It's all quiet. And then all of a sudden we find out that Harvey Barnes was in the next room signing for Newcastle United. So, he's very, very good at trying to sway the media, etc., away from what deals we're going to be doing. Michael says Solanke and Phillips. Phillips will do a job that we need doing. Solanke, not sure. Yes, he's in a good patch in the season. Looney Tune says it's the slow bedding in of new players that Eddie likes to do that worries me. We need any signings to hit the ground running. Brilliant comment, Looney Tune, and totally 100% agree with you. We are in a position where if we want to still finish high up in the league and maybe have a very good FA Cup run, we need these players to be ready to go straight away. Not sort of sit on the bench for 4 to 5 weeks and pick up the speed. They've got to be ready to go. And I think that is going to be vitally important to Eddie Howe in January. He's got to get players in and cannot afford to sit them on the bench. I know he's saying how injuries go and things like that, but look, we had a very strong team out against Nottingham Forest and they failed miserably. So we need players out there who will get the shirt on and go out there and fight straight away. That's what we need at Newcastle United right now. Agree with you. I think Phillips will be a good signing, but we have to spend a lot of money in the last summer window, so we are only looking at loans to buy now. I wouldn't be so sure. Let's just, like I said earlier on in the show, let's see what sponsorship money and etc. comes through the door, or they're expecting through the door, which ups our FFP. You never know. We may get rid of some players as well. I mean, everybody's talking about players coming in. Will there be players going out as well? So we have to wait and see on that one. Signings so far have been long-term signings, including last January, so I expect the same this January. I'd say whoever comes in will be for this and next season. Phillips XA expected assists has generally been very good in the last few seasons. Obviously, this has dropped this season due to playing time. Overall, he would be a positive for the midfield. Chris saying, any news on Ashworth leaving? Very quiet, Chris. It's gone very, very quiet. I was listening to Goldbridge this morning, and some people were asking him about the situation with Dan Ashworth, and it's just quiet at the Man United end as well. As far as I was aware, or certainly according to reports, was that Ashworth was out in Italy scouting players for Newcastle. So we have to see what comes of that. Ken says, was waiting for the Solanke shout coming up, another Eddie favourite. The lad scored a few goals lately, but what's he done the last 5 to 6 years? No queue to buy him, tells me everything. Totally agree, Ken. Totally agree. I don't see the point of Solanke signing. That for me would only be maybe in an emergency short-term signing because of the situation with our strikers. I wouldn't really... it just doesn't get me excited. I mean, like I say, he's having a purple patch at the minute, but Christ, Miggy goes through purple patches, and no, I just don't. There's better players. Nathan says, Paul, do you go for a defender this window, or is it focused just on the midfield and the striker? I think the defense is fine, if I'm honest, Nathan. I wouldn't. I don't think that's a necessity in the summer. In January. I don't think it's, given how I know Lascelles is out injured, but we've got Kraft to cover centre back. We've got Dummett to cover centre back. Dan Byrne. We've got players there who can cover centre-back position. I don't think it's a necessity. I think the full-back positions are fine as well. Trippier's there, Kraft's there, Livramento's there, Hall's there, etc. So I wouldn't really worry about that until the summer. I think it will be covered in the summer, but certainly not in January. I think there's more clinical positions we definitely need come the transfer window. But I think Solanke, but it might not sign him because we have Wilson and Isak. But where would he fit? Because we have 3 players, strikers, and we will have people complaining. Well, look, it's not about players complaining about getting minutes, because if the players on the pitch aren't doing it, then they don't deserve to be on the pitch. And that's what we have to, that's what we're talking about when we say Eddie needs to be a bit more ruthless, because if you're on that pitch and you're not performing, you don't deserve to be on the pitch. We've seen that in recent games. The likes of, Livramento being dropped. He deserves to be on that pitch because of the way he's played. Dan Byrne, come back from injury, get straight back in the team. That's wrong. And that's, for me, sends out the wrong message to Livramento. Saying, oh, you've been one of our best players, but you're still sitting it out. And yes, I can understand people saying, oh, he was rested against Luton, but there was no excuse for leaving him out against Forest, and he paid the price for that because Dan Byrne was really poor. Looney Tune says, Solanke's only 26. I see him as the new Wilson. I don't think he's as good as Callum Wilson, mate. But interesting opinion. And, yes, he is only 26, but he's been around forever, hasn't he? He seems to have been around forever since his Liverpool days. But like I say, he's took so long to get going at every club he's been at, and some of the clubs he's been at, he hasn't even got going. His scoring record is not great at certain clubs, I have to say. Howe signed Solanke at Bournemouth and got sacked. I hope he is wiser now. Hippie says, I don't know much about Solanke, but he has looked exceptional when I've watched the Cherries. Listen, he's played well this season. I'll reiterate that. And obviously, hey, if he's picked up and he's doing great, then fantastic, but I don't see him as the long-term option at Newcastle. I really don't. Michael says, I cannot wait for Sandro to return. He is going to offer the team so much more than any signing we make in January in the summer. TDR is still the best NUFC on the web. Hats off to you and the team. How are the lads? Thank you, Michael. Nathan says, Mitrovic is a great shout. I was saying this weeks ago, seems set up for a return. He loves the Toon and he's a massive hit with the fans. Do you know what? I mean, I laughed off the Mitrovic stuff when we were looking at, we did a show with looking at certain players in Saudi who we might be interested in signing. Why not Mitrovic? I mean, I have to be honest here and say, why not? If it was between Solanke and Mitrovic, I know which one I'd take. But this all depends on Eddie Howe. We know that Eddie Howe has this thing about English and British players, that he likes to bring them in and blood them first before any internationals come in. However, Mitrovic, he's a different player to what he was when he first played for us. He's matured a hell of a lot. He had a fantastic record at Fulham. And I think he'd be chomping at the bit to come back. Why not? He's a very, very physical player. We need that physicality back, don't we? We haven't got that physicality in the penalty area anymore. I mean, Wilson used to be really good at it, roughing the centre backs up and getting stuck in and giving them real grief and keeping them on their toes for the full game. But we haven't seen that for quite some time from any of our strikers. And Mitrovic would certainly be a shout to do that. I'd take him any day over Solanke. A lot of people mentioning Ivan Toney. I'm not sure Toney would be interested in a return to Newcastle, to be honest. EH, thank you for your super chat. He says, Almiron would be a great squad player who can come on the last 20 minutes, keep Eddie's intensity style of play. He is not clinical enough for the starting 11. I think Miggy's time's come, to be honest. Paul says, I don't want Mitrovic back, to be honest. He's aging now and not what we need. Interesting. Solanke, better out there and cheaper. His price would rise if we went in for him, says Jock. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? You look for English strikers and you look over the years how much money English strikers have gone for, whether it be the summer or the winter windows. It doesn't matter. They cost an absolute bloody fortune. So I think going for him, I think there's better out there anyway. I genuinely do. But I think we should just be signing people that don't cost expensive money. And even if they come off the bench, they would be doing great. We just need players that carry. I'm not sure what that last sentence means. Solanke won't take us to the next level if Eddie goes in for him. That will leave me asking serious questions about how. This is the thing. This is why I think Eddie Howe is facing such a massive transfer window, is because, it's a test for him. It's a test to see what players we can get in now. Newcastle United are not where they were a few years back. That's all gone now. Look where we've come from and all of this. We are where we are now. And we have to keep maintaining that standard. And by maintaining that standard, we have to bring in the best players that are available and around. And this is a huge test for Eddie. I know Dan Ashworth and his staff will be doing their very best to negotiate the deals and things like that. But we have to see. And a lot of people have made accusations that some of the signings that we made are not Eddie Howe's. Some of them are more to do with Dan Ashworth and the hierarchy at Newcastle United bringing them in. I think that happens at every club, to be honest. I don't think there's a complete matrimony in signings between managers and directors of football and things like that. So, I genuinely believe that we have and we will be out there looking now. And hopefully Eddie can bring in the right players and the best players for Newcastle United, because that's what we need. We don't need journeymen anymore. We need players that are going to come in, like the comments have said, and hit the ground running. We can't afford to sit them on the bench for 4 to 5 weeks and blood them in. These guys have to be ready, which is why I think Calvin Phillips would be an excellent signing. Dominic Solanke, for me, is good for Bournemouth, but I'm not sure he's what Newcastle United need. But look, that's not to say, hey, if we signed Solanke, would I support him? Absolutely. If anybody who pulls on that black and white shirt deserves our support. But, you know, my worry for Solanke is that he has another slow start at another club that he's moved to and can't get going for weeks on end when we need a striker who is ready to come in and smash the net. That's what we need. We're lacking goals at the minute. We scored a goal, you know, on at the weekend with a very, for me, dodgy penalty. And it, you know, when you look back at the penalty itself, it was Isak scored, and that's the whole point of it. But it wasn't the most convincing penalty you'll ever see. We're just not scoring goals, and we need to put the ball in the back of the net. And we need somebody up there who is going to do that on a regular basis. But I think, so, you know, moving Isak's position. He's not a striker for me, and playing out left or right or wherever they put him, he's got options up there, Eddie, and he needs to start looking at different options. Silence is golden says, I reckon the points will now be looking for a replacement to Eddie. It might be not popular, but they will not accept a step back. Well, that's what I mean. And people that keep saying, oh, look where we've come from. The owners, PIF, will not do that. They will be appreciative of what Eddie Howe has done at the football club and will certainly be very pleased with what he's done. But they will not accept falling backwards again. You know, I know they said it would be a slow and steady process. We've overachieved, but they will not want to go back to anything bar where we are now or higher. This is what they want. This is why they took over the football club. And that's why it's going to be very, very difficult for Eddie over the next few games, because if he loses all the games in January, including the derby, then he's in trouble for me. But I don't even want to look at that. I want to go into these games with a bit of positivity here. And, you know we can go to Anfield and take Liverpool on. We've done it before. We should have beaten them the other season, shouldn't we? When Isak was given offside, it should have been 2-0, game won. See you later. So we've done okay at Anfield. And I think, you know, Liverpool, I watched them against, who was it? It was a 0-0 draw a couple of weeks ago at Anfield. Manchester United, I think it was. You know, Liverpool are beatable. They're playing really well at the moment, but they are susceptible to mistakes. And we know that Newcastle United are just the side that could go down there and win the game. It's just like Newcastle United to do that. But we have to see a different team lineup to the one we saw at the weekend for me. Never mind the players coming in. What happens with our form if someone triggers Bruno's release clause? Well, I don't think it's... to be honest, I'm not sure that is for... I don't think it starts until the summer. So I don't think we've got anything to worry about Bruno leaving the club in January. Phillips will be a great addition. I think 6 of the 11 start on Saturday, nowhere close to fully fit, but no real alternatives. 3 on the bench carrying injuries. Need another striker to get proper rotation going for Isak and or Wilson. I really hope Eddie does not go for Gallagher as a Chelsea looking to get rid. Conor Gallagher, I don't know. You know what? I'm torn on Conor Gallagher. I've seen him a few times where he's been outstanding. I've also seen him a few times where he's been absolute garbage. You know, listen, he's captain of Chelsea at the moment. I don't see why he'd want to leave Chelsea, although there is rumours, granted, that Chelsea want rid. So for me, again, you know, would he improve? Is he an improvement on what we've already got, Conor Gallagher? Not for me. I don't think he is. A third striker also gives Howe the option to use Isak on the left while managing Wilson's game time when he starts. Exactly. Because Wilson has looked tired again, hasn't he? He's looked very, very tired of late. Ollie says, is bringing a striker in an emergency, bring back Minte rather than splashing money on a bang average strike of half a season. I think they've explored. I think they've explored the possibility of bringing Minte back, but I think he's there for the full season. I don't think we'll see Minte back, but he is one very exciting player that we'll see next season at Newcastle. I can't wait to see him because he's absolutely smashing it in the Eredivisie at the minute. So really looking forward to seeing him come in. Now, goalkeeper-wise, you know, Alan Shearer's made a big statement over the last couple of days saying that he really wants Newcastle United to go for David De Gea. Now, some people aren't a fan of De Gea. So, listen, I would love De Gea. I have to be honest. I think De Gea is a massive upgrade on Martin Dubravka. Now, I'm not saying he's a massive upgrade on Nick Pope. I think Nick Pope has now proved while he's been injured just how good he is and how much we need Nick Pope. You know, he is susceptible to the odd mistake, Nick Pope. There's no doubt about that. but he is a fantastic goalkeeper. And I think the fact that he's been missing for so long and we've conceded a lot of goals just says how good Nick Pope is, in my opinion. But we know that he's going to probably miss the rest of the season, Nick Pope, and a goalkeeper is a massive necessity in January for me. And the comments for Alan Shearer were very interesting, saying about how he needs to, we really need, as soon as the window opens. Now, of course, we can go in for him before the window opens, but he won't be able to play until we can register him in the squad in January. So, I don't know whether they've been talking to De Gea or not, but, I agree with Looney Tune here about it, but, it's a no-brainer. It costs nothing, so we can spend that extra money on other players and look for permanent keeper in the summer. Look, De Gea's still, I mean, what is he, 31? So if he came in for Newcastle and had a blinding 6 months, why not sign him? And I'm sure De Gea, at his stage in his career now, Pope and De Gea as our keepers next season, I'd be perfectly happy to go ahead with that. Absolutely 100% I would. Let Karius go, let Dubravka go, because Dubravka's not the answer, guys. We're conceding way too many goals, and his positional play is rotten. We've seen that over the last few games, and Shearer was really passionate about this when he spoke about bringing in a goalkeeper, because we know that Dubravka is not what he was. He's slow now. He doesn't come off his line anywhere near as quick or as often as he should. And we are conceding goals left, right, and centre. The back four don't have faith in the goalkeeper, and that creates a lot of problems as well. Edward says, agree with Paul on De Gea, would give the defence confidence. We need a player like Victor Osimhen. I know that sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but we need to move to the next level of quality in order for us to become a better team and compete. Well, yeah. I mean, look, Osimhen I don't think would be a January signing. I think he's more like a summer signing for someone. But yes, definitely a player who would excite the fans. Davies says Dubravka equals De Gea. Doesn't need an expert to say who's better. Plus he's not making any wages, so no brainer. And the thing is, with him coming in on a free, we can offer him a decent signing on fee as well, which could negotiate better wages. If we can offer him a decent signing on fee, which will lower his weekly wage, for me it's an absolute no-brainer. I just can't understand why we haven't made that move, because all reports from De Gea's side and in Spain say he's eager to return to the Premier League. Aiden says, I like to hear, but I think we need someone younger. I'd prefer going in for Georgi Mamadashvili. Yeah, look, I think, again, that's a summer one. I don't think that's a winter transfer window signing. Some of these big deals for these big players who are really making names for themselves, I think, are very much deals for the summer and not winter deals. De Gea just is an obvious one. He's a better goalkeeper than Martin Dubravka, and he's sitting there on a free transfer. I just don't get it. It's a no-brainer for me to bring De Gea in. It really is. We should go in for Edozie and get Minte home. Try to get De Gea in for free and try to get Calvin on loan to buy. We do have options. Definitely options there. Niall says De Gea until the summer, but we need to go and get a world-class keeper for our spine. As much as Pope is great, I think to get next level, we need better. Possibly, yeah. But look, as I said before, if De Gea signs and plays brilliantly for us for 6 months, why wouldn't we make the deal permanent? And that is massive competition for Nick Pope. I don't think Nick Pope's finished yet by any stretch of the imagination. So I think I would love to see De Gea and Pope at the club. I really would. Alex was right last night. We need to move on to the next phase of players. So people like Byrne, Miggy, Wilson, Longstaff need to be just squad players and be upgraded. I 100% agree. But what worries me is that Eddie's talking about, new deals for those guys. I think it's ludicrous. Better than Pope, never mind Dubravka talking about De Gea. Looney Tunes says, totally agree, Paul Tully. We need to move players on and stop giving them contracts. That's what Ashley did. Yeah, we don't want to go down that road again, do we? We really don't want to go down that road. I think it's mental if we go down that road again of giving the older players, extensions to contracts when we know they're not good enough anymore. What we can do as fans is we can say thank you for everything you've done for Newcastle United, but the time is now to move on. We need that extra quality. We need that extra boost. If we're going to be where we want to be, we can't keep giving the likes of Dan Byrne, etc., contracts when we know that, they're limited as to how much quality they've got, and we need to take that extra step. But one thing we have to do as fans is say thank you for what they've done. Thank you for what you've done for Newcastle United, but the time is now that we need to move on to bigger and better players. And I'm sure, the likes of Dan Burn and etc. will understand that, because at some point we are going to improve. And we have to. If we're to be an elite Premier League team, we have to improve. It's as simple as that. thank you for your super chat. He says, how much can we spend with FFP in January? No idea is the answer to that. And I don't think anybody knows. You will get people in the press coming out and saying, oh, Newcastle have only got this and that to spend. That's bollocks. Don't listen to any of that, because nobody actually knows what Newcastle United's finances are apart from the club themselves. And certainly nobody from within the club will be releasing that information to the media about how much we've got to spend. It's all bollocks. These people will come out and say, oh, they've only got 50 million or whatever it is. They don't know that. They really don't. So take all that with a huge pinch of salt. Lamp says Schmeichel is at Anderlecht and is way too old at 37. Yeah, I think Schmeichel's had his time. He's gone into the smaller European leagues now just to finish his career. He's had a good one, hasn't he? But at 37, I don't think he would be the answer anymore at present. Robert says there's not enough depth in the squad anyway. Well overachieved. Remember, these wouldn't get in any other top 7 team. Elise is going to be a great player. Let's face it. He's not going to stay at boring club Palace. No, Elise is somebody that we could have. David says if Chris Wood runs circles around Burn, then how do we start Burn against Salah next week? He doesn't. I think he'd be crazy if he did. I think he'd be absolutely mental if he did. And I'd have real concerns if Dan Burn is in the starting 11 next week. I really would. But having said that, we've asked that question before, when Liverpool have come here. But obviously Liverpool have, well, it looks like, according to Manchester City News, Manchester City have now granted permission for Calvin Phillips to join Newcastle. So there you go. A bit of breaking news for you there. It's just flashed up on my screen. Now, he's on 150 grand a week, which is an awful lot of money, but he's probably one of the lowest paid players at Manchester City on 150 grand a week. That says a lot. But it looks like Manchester City have now granted permission, giving Calvin Phillips the opportunity to finalize a deal with Newcastle. So hopefully that is going to be one deal that will be done in the first couple of days of the transfer window, which is exactly what we were talking about earlier, is getting the deals done, getting them through getting them through the door, and getting them on the training pitch and getting them in the side, not sitting on their arse again for 4 to 5 weeks. Calvin Phillips is a player who will be ready to go, and we need him in. We need that number 6, and it will, that's the first part of shoring up our defense, is bringing in a number 6. And for me, Calvin Phillips will do it. Moraes doesn't agree. Neither does Dom. Dom says, what a waste of money, man. 150k wages and 7.5 million fee. Joke from the club. I don't think it is. I think, this is what we genuinely have to pay now. If we get the quality, we've got to pay the money. Roger Cook says, I'm 12 minutes behind, but loving the content, Paul. Improvement is where we're at now. Squad players to improve us. Phillips is bang average. Don't think he improves us. There's some there's some very interesting opinions coming in this morning on Calvin Phillips, and I think he does improve us. That's just my personal opinion. I think that we need a number 6. He is a dedicated number 6 and will be a good signing for us. That's not to say that it's a definite that he will fail or anything like that. It worries me slightly that, I think we've got to give Calvin Phillips a chance, guys, rather than write him off straight away and call him bang average. Let's see what he does with Eddie Howe. Let's see what he's learned from, Pep Guardiola, and let's see how he performs in our team before we write him off. Man United going in for Phillips. I could see them try, but I hope you would prefer to come here. I wouldn't listen to that. Man United, I don't think Manchester City would want to do business with them. It looks like he's been given permission to join Newcastle, and as far as we were aware through media reports, is he's very he's quite a way down the line with his talks with Newcastle United. It is going to be a loan deal. Just trying to read the report here. Newcastle are keen to replace, obviously, Sandro Tonali. Funds will be available for Calvin Phillips. Manchester City have no plans to block the deal moving to Tyneside. and they're confident of a deal and materialise in the first few days of January. So there you go. Maybe. Look, nobody said it's going to be a completely done deal, but this looks more and more positive by the... Yeah, David makes a good point. Phillips is a Leeds boy. There's no way he goes to Manchester United. Andy says, I don't mind contracts for Byrne and Longstaff. They still have their place as squad players. Yeah, for now they do, absolutely. But what I don't want to see is certainly the likes of Byrne getting 4 or 5 year contracts like we used to hand out willy-nilly to players, because that bit us in the arse a couple of years ago when the takeover happened. We just couldn't shift the dead wood. And that's disappointing. John's backdoor says, why are people saying Phillips not good enough for us? Makes no sense. Listen, for me, Phillips is better than Longstaff, right? He's better than Miley at the minute, because Miley's still got a long way to go. As good as he is at the minute, he's still only 17. He's got a lot to learn. But for me, Calvin Phillips is going to be a great signing. He will shore up that. He's dedicated number 6. I don't have a problem at all with Calvin Phillips. Not a jot of a concern. I think he's a very good player, and I know he hasn't played a lot, but he's training under Pep Guardiola. He's learning from Pep. Look, let's just put it this way: we spent £40 million on a player that is now not able to play this season. And we're complaining about the £7.5 million loan fee. Come on. I think we have to look at it as a positive more than a negative here, especially when you look at Man United trying to get a £12 million fee for Lingard this time last year. Absolutely crazy. But there you go, guys. That is the latest Newcastle United news done and dusted for this morning. Don't forget, we are back tonight at 7 o'clock with a proper transfer show. We're doing something a little bit different tonight, which is certainly going to interest you. We're going to have a look at certain players who may not be coming in January, but who certainly may come in the summer. But we'll have a look at those players that are available. A little bit of a different one tonight, so I think it's going to be very, very, very enjoyable. So don't miss that. 7 o'clock start tonight, and we'll take a look at some players and see what they could do should they sign for Newcastle United. But thank you for watching, guys. Thanks for your super chats. Thank you to the mods, but thank you to you. Over 700 turned up this morning, which is incredible. Thank you so much for all your support. Please do hit that like button before you leave the stream. And also, if you're new, please do subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner, hit the logo, hit subscribe. Come and be part of this incredible community. And of course, if you're watching the rerun, please do the same. Hit the like button and do come and subscribe to this fantastic community that we have on the Toon Review. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock. Take care.
Come back and check out some green.